you talk powerfully about feminine and masculine energy. I have a
Yes.
really hard time, because I think by nature I tend towards the feminine. I have a
Yes.
really hard time, like when you use a metaphor like that, my brain immediately translates it into something tough and cool.
Yes.
But that's probably not helpful. Talk to me a little bit about that duality. You've talked about how we all hold those both inside of us. How can we, because that may be exactly the moment to lean into that.
Yeah.
And the more you can help me understand it as a process of being able to consciously move from one energy to the other, that would be extraordinary.
So consciously moving from masculine to feminine, for any of us, people access those different modalities within us in different ways. For me, one of the most effective ways is actually breathing into your heart. Now, I think when we're in our masculine, we want to stay connected to our heart. When we're in our feminine, we want to stay connected to our heart. For me, when I get in masculine driving mode, I can unhinge from my heart more easily. I can get really focused, really driven. I can feel my stress level go up. I can almost tune everything else out and just hit it really hard. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Oh, yes. When I'm in my feminine and I allow things to be and I stay really connected to my heart and my emotional self, and I feel this sense of joy and this sense of trust around me, I find that, I don't know if this is helpful to you, that helps me kind of dance in between both of those. And it helps me detect which mode that I'm in. So let me make sure that I'm hearing your question right. Do you want to tap into your feminine essence more or your masculine essence? Which is the one that you find it difficult to see where you're at?
I think that what the truth for me is getting to the point where, one, I can do it consciously.
Yes.
So that I'm recognized, because an insight into me, when you were describing the masculine as like a shutting down, and I understand that that isn't necessarily good, it sounded awesome to me. And it was like such a sexy description. I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to, like, you were doing tune everything out. I was like, fuck yeah, like,
Yes.
I want to get in it.
Which we all need to do sometimes. It's required, but go ahead.
So for me, it's like, is it, as I have, like, doing that has led me to extraordinary success.
Yes.
And so, but from that, I'm also hyper conscious. Like, I'm constantly asking myself the deathbed question. Now, the irony is part of what I talk about a lot is wanting to live forever. And so I think people think that I don't recognize that I'm just awash in mortality right now. So
Yes.
I do play that out, and I think about that a lot.
Yes.
And I can feel sometimes that it would be a mistake to make that the only mode that I live in. But because I had to find a way to toughen up, that was my job as a new entrepreneur. That was the thing that I lacked. I did not know how to be tough. Mm-hmm. And so I had ambition, but no drive. And so my journey has been one of getting hard. Now, my wife will tell you, hey, great job. You made it. You've gotten too hard. So now my thing is to refine my playfulness, which is almost certainly the right word.
Yes.
And so letting go of some of the judgments I have about the sort of earlier way that I came to things, which I'll say was more feminine in nature.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, is there a judgment in you that feminine energy, and this is, again, no judgment on my part, but that feminine energy is potentially weak?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. First of all, that is a notion that many of us have, myself included, until fairly recently. Culturally speaking, we've mostly been taught that the feminine is weak, right? That's why so many women man up to run a business. For me, for years and years and years, it produced incredible results, but you know what? At a tremendous cost, where I felt myself and my creativity starting to just drain down, where I felt myself getting more and more stressed, less and less joyful, where I found myself feeling more and more tired and asking the questions, why? Because I know my core essence. So that is one of probably the biggest mistaken notions that we have culturally, is that the feminine is weak, and it is not. It is one of the most beautiful, powerful forces within all of us. And I think, and I'll speak particularly to the women who are watching right now, one of the most profound things that you can do over the course of your life, especially if you struggle with being in your feminine, is to understand that it will unlock your most powerful, beautiful, creative life that you could imagine, which includes your ability to kick major ass in business, and it includes your ability to heal others.
All right, I want to go deep on that. It's the most interesting thing that I came across between the first time I researched you and this time was you were talking openly about there was, I don't want to use the wrong word, but
That's okay.
a declining
Sex
sense
drive.
of perfect. There we
Yeah,
go.
no, we have to go right there. Because, and that's kind of what I was alluding to before. As a woman who's built this incredible business, which I am so proud of, right? And building it from scratch, like so many of the people in our audience have, and they're working really hard in their careers, even if they're not entrepreneurs. They're busting their buns every single day. They're raising kids. They're taking care of a million things, especially women, right? And at the end of the day, you're like, what happened? I used to have this like incredibly powerful libido. I used to have all this desire. And for me, in my experience in my relationship, I don't want to be with any other men. That's not what it was about. But I was like, gosh, where did it all go? And it really took many, many years and me experimenting with different modalities and things to go, what is wrong with me and how can I figure this out? How can I get this back? And it wasn't until I really started to understand on an experiential level the power of my feminine that everything started to come rushing back. And, you know, as a woman, I think this is important for people to hear because there's a lot of messaging that, well, you know, once you're done with your 20s or your 30s, like it's all downhill. And that's bullshit. It's total bullshit. In my experience, it can keep getting better and richer and sexier and hotter and more exciting than ever before. We're getting a lot of claps today, which I
like. These guys over big time.
Yes, but I think the thing that we fail to realize is that all of this is integrated, right? So it's not like the joyful playfulness that you bring to your relationship doesn't impact the joyful playfulness that you bring to your business or your creativity or vice versa. That in the middle of, let's say, a business shit show, that if you can bring some levity or you can bring your emotional self or you can be vulnerable, that you're not going to spark a breakthrough amongst the team. So I think all of this really interplays quite nicely, and it's important that we recognize that they do feed each other.